We're continuing our interview series with the legends of South Carolina Stingrays hockey. You've heard from Jeff Jakaitis, one member of the Stingrays class of 2022 that will be inducted on Saturday night. The other member joins us right now, Patrick Gaul. Patrick, thanks very much for doing this, man. Congratulations on the honor. How you doing?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I'm doing well. Very humbled by the honor. It was great getting the call, and super excited to be going in with Jacko. He was my road roommate for all the years that we played together. Really close with him, and definitely he was a major part of every winning season we had when I was here.
I got to ask you right off the top, is there a funny road story that you have of Jeff Jakaitis?
Let me think here. I'm not sure I have any funny ones. He's an old soul, a pretty laid back guy, and I'm the youngest of five, so I was while I was young when I got to the team. I've always been an older, spirited person, so him and I were much more likely to be, laying down at 9 o'clock the night before a game, hanging out, watching TV, not doing anything terribly exciting. So I wish I had something for you. I know in Jeff's younger days, some of his roommates would probably have some really good stories for him, but I got him when he was a little older and wiser. So
sure. Well, that's fair. I mean, I'm 38, and 9 o'clock hanging out watching TV sounds mighty good. So I definitely get the old soul vibe there. I got that from him as well when I chatted with him, and just having you kind of confirm that kind of helps things. So let's get into how you got the itch. Tell us what led you to strap on the skates and make hockey a career, even for a brief few years.
Yeah, so it wasn't even really a decision. It was more of a birthright for me. My dad was a coach. My brother, who was 9 years older than me, was a player as a kid, and someone I very much so looked up to. So I want to do anything my older brother did. So I basically learned to walk, and then was taken down to the rink to learn to skate. So, it definitely wasn't, can't say, I mean, I've had the itch since I could speak is how I would put it. Shortly, just trying to be like my older brother and follow in his footsteps as best I could.
You've in looking at some of your stats here, you have done some pretty cool things. You've played on the United States U18 team in the North American Hockey League, and you've had a chance to represent the United States in the World Junior Championships. As a teenager, that has to be a really cool deal to represent your country on one of hockey's biggest stages.
Yeah, absolutely. It was the day I heard about the U.S. Under-17 team. That was a goal of mine to play for that team. Always been a very patriotic person, so to get to put on that sweater was really special. 2 years there shaped, I would say, a lot of my game and just how I viewed the game of hockey. Kind of built on, my old man was a coach as a kid, not necessarily my team, but I spent a lot of time around the rink and definitely have an older school mentality of how the game should be played. And then I had John Hines as my coach at the U.S. program, and he just drilled that further into me. I don't want to call Hines a psychopath, but he was definitely a hard-nosed coach and did some out-of-the-box things that that definitely instilled discipline in his players, is how I'll put it. But spending 2 years there was great. We won a bronze medal in World Under-18s there. And oddly enough, Justin Florek was actually just found a picture of Justin Florek, who's now on the Stingrays, was my line mate in those years. I found a picture of Florek and I after our bronze medal game in the locker room, biting on our medals. So yeah, good memories and a lot of good times playing for that team.
I have to think that in your house that you probably have a man cave of some sort. There's a Stingrays jersey, but before the Stingrays jersey, there's probably a United States jersey with that bronze medal there, and I have to think that means a lot to you.
Yeah, absolutely. We're actually currently finishing our garage, which will become the man cave. She gets all the square footage. I get the detached garage to decorate.
Sounds about right.
And yeah, and it's I basically have a bunch of Stingrays jerseys, a Notre Dame jersey, U.S. jersey, a lot of Eagles, Philadelphia Eagles memorabilia will be going up in there. Big Eagles football fan. It's been tough sledding since the Super Bowl, but it is what it is.
I think most fans outside of Kansas City would say that their franchise has had some tough sledding here recently. You guys have a good quarterback there in Jalen Hurts, though. So let's pivot there from the U18 team where you win the bronze medal to the University of Notre Dame. What was that experience like playing for one of the, I guess, the blue chip programs of college hockey there at the University of Notre Dame?
It was interesting because I kind of got there. I believe it was my senior year of high school. They just went to the Frozen Four the year prior, beat Michigan in overtime in the Frozen Four, and then went to the championship the next, lost in the championship game. And then, so my freshman year, our team was absolutely stacked. Didn't get a chance to play as much my freshman year as I would have hoped. Sophomore year, on paper, we had an awesome team and just kind of as a squad couldn't put it together. And then junior year, we went back to the Frozen Four. It was my college career definitely wasn't was by no means picture perfect, but I definitely I would say I learned more life lessons in college that are going to take me much further than hockey ever would have. So I'm very grateful and thankful for my time at Notre Dame and all the people I met. My teammates there are great. Tony Rulinski, our strength coach, I still do workouts that he put together for us, despite the fact that I'm not an athlete anymore, technically. It was a good experience.
You mentioned that you pulled some life lessons away from that experience there at the University of Notre Dame. Give me one that you felt like helped you in hockey and still helps you today.
This was something I had before I got to Notre Dame, but was just further impressed upon me there. Just controlling what you can control. That was a big one. And for me, as someone who's, generously 5'8", not the most gifted player in terms of speed or skill. I get around the ice okay, and my hands are decent, but that's by no means what I got. What kept me at the Stingrays as long as it did. I never wanted the reason I didn't make it somewhere, didn't get to play pro, we didn't do well. I didn't have a good season. I didn't want it to ever be a lack of effort. Given that that's something that everyone has control of. And that was something that when I was at Notre Dame was, I might not play this weekend. I might not, be on the power play, but it wasn't going to be for a lack of effort or a lack of trying or a lack of competing. And I think that's something that has kind of stuck with me through hockey and carried me, into my work career.
You broke into the pro ranks in the SPHL with the Mississippi River Kings in 2012-13. Did you feel like that the SPHL was a good testing ground, a good proving ground for you to refine your game and get it ready for the move up to the next level?
I did, and as much as it was, nights for that, it was good to play hockey again. Like I went to the U.S. program where I was, kind of a meat and potatoes third line player. Went to college where I was into the lineup, out of the lineup, fourth line guy. you're playing 8 minutes a night. To get to my first year pro was the last NHL lockout. So there was kind of a trickle down effect where, your fringe American League guys were playing down in the coast, which was taking your fringe coast guys and putting them down at the SP. So I think, and I can't say this for certain because that was I played there for 3 or 4 months and that was it. But I think that year that league was a little better than it typically is. And it was nice for me to be able to get an opportunity to, be a first line guy, play with skilled players, be on the power play and kind of, get back into the game of hockey the way I played it when I was a kid, and I loved playing it, just getting to compete, and I'm playing 22 minutes a night. Like I probably played more in those first 3 months in the SP than I did in 4 years in college in terms of ice time. So it was great for that and just giving me confidence to, I am still pretty okay at this game, and I can compete with professional players.
Patrick Gaul, the legendary Stingrays forward, joining us here. You made the move to the Stingrays in the middle of that 12-13 season, and as Rob Kincannon told us in a prior interview, he kind of shed a little bit of light on how you ended up with the Stingrays. Do you remember how you and Spencer Carberry hooked up and you ended up with the Stingrays?
Yeah, it was honestly just the perfect example of, everything happens for a reason. So the lockout ended on, or there was word the lockout was going to end on, a Saturday or a Sunday. I can't remember what day of the month it was. It was early in January. And I get a call from my agent, hey, Elmira's looking for a guy. Their coach is going to reach out to you. Elmira, no longer a team in the SPHL, but Elmira is going to reach out to you. They're looking for a guy. I have a call with the Elmira coach on Monday. Hey, great news. Love to have you. Heard great things. Need you to get here by Thursday. We have a game on, or need you to get here by Friday. We have a game on Saturday that we'd like you to play in. Okay, super. Call my coach, tell him what's going on. We had a game Wednesday. I was like, I'll come play. I don't want to leave my teammates out to dry. Very, very long story short, Elmira doesn't end up needing a guy. I get a call last minute. I literally have my car packed full of everything I own. Wasn't going to be able to play in the game on Wednesday for the team in Mississippi. Was going to have to drive up to Elmira right away, get kind of the rug pulled out from under me. No longer good to go. So I call my coach in Mississippi back. Hey, not going to Elmira anymore. Can I still come play in the game today? And he's, oh, absolutely. Bus leaves in 45 minutes. So I ran into my car, grabbed my tracksuit, pillow, blanket, hopped on the bus, played a game, played my last game that I played in Mississippi that night. Actually had my only professional hat trick that night.
Wow.
Get off the bus, have a bunch of missed calls from my old man, siblings. I'm just assuming they all watch the game. I have no idea what's actually going on. Give my dad a call back, and he's apparently sitting at, it was either a Chili's or an Applebee's with Spencer Carberry and JB Bittner. And a little additional background there. JB Bittner was the assistant coach at the time. Bitsy grew up playing with my oldest brother. So we were, family friends. Like I remember watching Bittner when I was a kid at the rink. He had texted my dad, I guess, hey, we saw Patty's going to Elmira. It's a shame we could actually use a guy. We were going to give him a call. And my dad was like, hey, I don't know if you're blowing smoke or not, but that kind of fell through. So if you're serious, give me a quick buzz. Turns out the Stingrays just got done playing Reading. My old man was in Philly for work. He usually was, Philly, Jersey, New York, New England area for work. Happened to be staying at the hotel across the street from the team, which is just, again, like a 1 in a million kind of situation. So when I called my dad after the game, he literally handed the phone to Spencer Carberry, which I don't think is how most call-ups work, from what I understand. And I talked to Carbs, he was great. And I asked that he give my coach from Mississippi a call to let him know what's going on. Cause, I know he didn't like how the Elmira situation worked out. He wanted to make sure I was going to a place that was going to take care of me.
That is awesome. It goes to show that hockey really is a very tight-knit community.
Oh, it's crazy. They're, you know, I played for the Stingrays for 7 seasons or 6.5 seasons. And every year you have your 8 to 10 guys that usually were either, usually were there the year before, your kind of rollover guys, especially in Charleston, guys that stick around. But you end up playing with, I don't know, somewhere between 35 and 55 guys a year. Sometimes, like if you look at the Stingrays roster that lockout year, there were probably 75 guys on it. It's amazing. No matter where a guy's from or where he's played, you can piece together, when you play long enough, you can piece together, oh, do you know, Tim played with, did you play at Cornell? Like, oh, Tim Scott, whoever the player might be. It's uncanny how little the hockey world is.
That's incredible. You said you spent 6.5 seasons there in South Carolina. What attracted you, other than the opportunity to go to South Carolina, what attracted you in the off season to re-sign there and make Charleston a home?
That's kind of a 2-part question. The making Charleston a home was something that kind of developed over time. Signing in the off season was kind of a no-brainer for me. The Spencer Carberry Carbs as a coach was the way he wanted guys to play from a competitiveness standpoint was exactly how I thought the game of hockey should be played. So him and I very much so saw eye to eye on. I think he liked the way I played, and I liked playing for him. He was the kind of guy that had no problem, flipping a table, throwing a chair. He was intense. He was competitive. He wanted to win. Playing for a guy like that is, it's great. And it was funny. The longer I played for him over time, him and I got to know each other really well. And there would be times where I'd do something a little too cute that wasn't quite in my toolbox, and he wouldn't even say anything to me. I'd get down to get back to the bench, and he'd look at me, and I'd kind of nod my head and be like, "Yeah, I'm not going to do that anymore. You're right." So playing for a coach like that you have a relationship with is, it makes the game, you're not questioning yourself. You're not unsure of what you should be doing. It takes out that step of hesitation you can get when, and something that I struggle with in college when, you're worried about getting scratched the next game and what your coach is going to think of every decision you make. Your hockey sense just goes right out the window. And then to keep me coming back, it's, I still say it all the time, when I'm talking to family back home, that there are palm trees here. I'm still not used to that. It's crazy that, I live in a place like this. And truthfully, the whole sticking around, staying around, I met my wife down here. She's definitely a big part of why I stayed here. Not that I was going to play for another team in certainly not in this league. But she was down here. The company she worked for is headquartered here. And then the season I broke my jaw 2015, 2016, I believe was the year. I think that was it. And I ended up having to stay after the season for surgery. So that was the last time I didn't, that was really when Charleston became home.
We talked with Jeff Jakaitis the other day about those Spencer Carberry teams, and he said that the more you guys won, the longer the leash got, and the funner that it got as well, because winning breeds confidence, and there's nothing like a really confident room. Is that the same sense you took away from that team, from those teams as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with Carbs, he was a wonderful coach to play for when things were going great, and he was a miserable prick when things weren't. And that's personally how I think it should be. I was never a big believer in rewarding guys that don't earn it. And we were pretty, the year I think Jack was talking about was the year we had the winning streak. primarily that year. I mean, we were good the next year too, but that year was a really special one. And we were very mediocre the first half of the year, like right around a 500 team, and had a nice little skate and workout that were less than fun. And you, as a player, you never want to win 23 games in a row after a coach bags you like that. But I'm pretty sure we got, came in on a Sunday and worked out for 3 hours straight, and everyone was miserable. And I don't think we lost a game for the next 50 days or whatever it was. So we probably got 15 games into that win streak, and things got pretty loose in the locker room. Not in the locker room, in the outside of the rink. Carbs was a little more forgiving, and definitely let us have a good time. That year was so much fun.
We asked him as well about Game 7 in Toledo in the Eastern Conference Finals, the scoreless game all the way into the third overtime. And I remember, coming into the ECHL, having covered another league prior, but coming into the ECHL, and that was the game that really hooked me on to this brand and to this league of hockey. What was that like, playing that game, scoreless, 0-0, Game 7, season on the line, and then you get into the ultra pressure of overtimes and then multiple overtimes?
Yeah, that game was the single most tired I think I've ever been in my entire life. We basically played almost 2 full hockey games. And the other thing too that a lot of people don't remember about that series is, while yes, it was Game 7, we also had several games that went into overtime prior to that game. So in that series, it was a 7-game series where I feel like we played like 10 games worth of hockey, which is just bananas. But yeah, that game was ridiculous. It was cool because, and I don't know, Jacko probably didn't mention this because he doesn't really love bragging about himself, but that game was Jeff Jakaitis versus Jeff Lerg, which Lerg played at Michigan State when Jacko was at Lake Superior State. They were, I think, I don't know birth year wise how close they are, but like it was always, I think, whether he'll admit it or not, there was always a little bit of friendly competition between the two of them, despite the fact that they're both goalies, and at no point in the game should they be anywhere near each other, but there's definitely a competitive spirit. So it was nice that Jacko could get the shutout in a, Game 7 win against a guy he's competed against so much in his career. That game was nuts. I'm just so happy that Joe Devin shot that puck and didn't consider passing it to me on that 2-on-1, which is what the game winner was on.
The ultimate scoreboard there, with Jeff Jakaitis going through the handshake line, having a 1-0 shutout in 3 overtimes. Yeah,
you couldn't ask for a better win as a goalie, I don't think.
What would you have done if you'd received that 2-on-1 pass from Joe Devin?
Probably ripped it a foot and a half over the net. If I was a betting man, I don't know. I definitely would have shot high or tried to shoot high. It's 6 periods into a game. I don't, what I'm saying, what would that be now? 7 years later. It's hard to say. At that point, I definitely would have just tried to throw it on net and hope for the best. Lerg was a little guy, so hopefully if he was sliding over, I had the top half of the net to shoot at. Thankfully, Devs went posting in, and we got to we got to all get a rest after that, a brief rest before heading into the finals.
Yeah, you talked about how tired you were, and going back and looking through the playoff run of that year, you'd played another triple overtime game against Florida earlier in the playoffs, and as several single and double overtimes. You mentioned how exhausted you were after the 3 overtime game. Was that mental exhaustion or physical, or both?
I mean, your mind typically goes before your legs do when you're in games like that, which is tough. That's if you watch enough hockey, you'll see so many games that go into double and triple overtime. Somebody makes a mental mistake at some point. I don't know if you can say that in that Toledo game, that was what resulted in our goal or us winning. But yeah, it was definitely more, I mean, physical exhaustion is easier to understand and reconcile with. It's, you don't realize that you're mentally fatigued until, you make that bonehead play that cost your team the game, or you almost make that bonehead play that almost cost your team the game. Yeah, we were eating like pizza in between the second and third overtime because we just didn't have any other food. You can only eat so many bananas in one game.
You wore the A there for several South Carolina teams. Your last 5 years as a pro, you were an assistant captain. Outside of wearing the C, that has to be a pretty high honor to not only have that say what it says about the way you are on the ice, but the way you lead off the ice as well.
Yeah, and I think any guy I played with down here will tell you I wasn't the most outspoken leader in the locker room. I very much so was a lead by example kind of player. Same thing off the ice. I very much so, similar to Carbs and kind of the way my old man taught me how to play hockey as a kid is like there are things that are objectively right and wrong as a player, and I did consider getting into coaching at one point and decided to go a different route. But yeah, I was a lead by example kind of guy, and loved every minute of wearing the A, because I felt, especially once I played more years and had younger guys coming in, that it's good when you're the leaders on your team are not rah-rah in the locker room, but are actually, finishing checks and blocking shots and doing the things right that help you win hockey games.
Spending our final few moments here with South Carolina Stingrays forward Patrick Gaul. What makes playing in Charleston so special?
That's a good question. I mean, there's so much tradition here. It's amazing the amount of guys that, still live in town. Like I skated last night there's a pretty good skate that goes on Monday night. I would say close to half the guys played for the team at one point. Like it's cool that you have, I don't think other minor league hockey teams, especially not coast teams, have as many guys that stick around. I know Florida has some guys that stay there, Greenville, Orlando. Our division's pretty good with it, but the tradition of winning that this team's experienced over the history of the franchise is pretty special. And it's Charleston, South Carolina, you don't really think hockey town, but the longer I've lived here, the more people I've met who aren't from here. There's so many transplants down here that if you walk into a Stingrays game, you're going to see, Red Wings jerseys, Blackhawks jerseys, Rangers jerseys, Flyers jerseys. Like, it's so many people from up north moved down here. I just wish our rink was a little smaller. So when we did get a decent crowd, the people were a little more on top of you. It's just, in my opinion, too big of a facility for a minor league hockey team.
What's your ideal facility size?
I thought Toledo's rink was one of the most fun places in our league to play. I feel like it seats somewhere between like 45 and 5,500. And it isn't, there's no space wasted in terms of seating. Like, the fans are kind of right on top of you. It's, I think under 6,000 for sure.
Alumni Night has to be pretty special as a player. You've played in several of those games, but now you get to be on it from the other side as somebody who's going to go into a Hall of Fame. I have to assume that Saturday night is going to be just a tremendously special night for you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. I got the Gaul household is going to be filling up quite a few Stingray seats. Parents are coming down. Brother and his two kids, potentially his wife, are coming down. All three of my sisters are coming down with in total, I'm going to have 8 nieces and nephews at the game, plus my wife and my in-laws. as well as most of the people in my Bible study will be there. So it's going to be a lot of fun with a lot of the people that supported me along the way. It's going to be special.
Finally, kind of turn this over to you. You get a chance to talk to the South Carolina Stingrays through us. Anything you want to say to them?
Are we talking the teams, the team, the fans, the players?
Fans, team, whoever.
I would just say, I mean, you can say this to the coaches, the players, and the fans, not to take it for granted. I definitely, I was raised to, again, my dad drilled it into me and my dad was a loving father. When I say drilled into me, he just repeated himself a lot. You play every shift like it's your last. And especially in this league, I mean, the Stingrays have been around for 20 plus years. I would certainly hope that they're not going anywhere anytime soon, but, for the fans to enjoy and appreciate every game you get to go to, same for players, every shift you get, every time you get to put on a sweater, whether you're ticked off that you're playing in the coast or you're thrilled to be here, like it is such an opportunity to play what I think is the best sport on the planet. And same goes for the coaches. Like the Stingrays are recently made a change in that spot, and I don't think it's it's not unusual. It is a business, and things change. Teams evolve. Players get cut. Players get traded. Players get released. Just don't take it for granted.
Congratulations, Patrick. Thanks very much for doing this. All the best to you and your family down the road, and let's catch up again soon.
Sounds good. Thank you.